Hey YouTube, Aaron from IG Tech 365, and today we're going to be talking about hurricane season and preparations for the storm that may come your way or it may not. You just never know. And we're located here in Tampa Bay. I've been a Florida resident for many, many decades now, more than I'll mention, and been through quite a few hurricanes, been into hurricanes in disaster response and things of that nature. So I've seen the devastation that it can lay upon a very large area. And until you see it, you don't fully understand what it can do. You see the video online and on TV, and you just think, oh, that's terrible. But what happens if that happens to your business? What are you going to do? You've got a responsibility to your family. You've got a responsibility to your customers and to your employees, and even to your vendors, because you got to be able to pay your bills by servicing those other groups. So it's very important to be reminded of the things that you can do. Some things are easy, some things are hard, some things are cheap and free, and some things are going to be, more expensive. Really, what you've got to take a look at is determining what you believe your risk to be. And I think after seeing what happened to the Asheville, North Carolina area, we have to reset our bar as to what our risk really is. I used to think that living 30 miles inland was going to keep us relatively safe, and then you see what happened in Nashville, and they're 600-700 miles from the coast. So we've got to rethink how we're going about getting ready for major disasters, so we can continue to function. Because in essence, our customers and their businesses rely on us to keep them operating as much as humanly possible. So the first thing that you need to take a look at is your insurance policies, and make sure that you have sufficient coverage, and make sure that you discuss with your insurance agent the differences between wind and water damage. There's always the question, which came first, right? And if you have both from the same company, then you're covered, in my opinion. Talk to your agent. But if you have one and not the other, then perhaps you run into a problem. Or if you get them from two different locations, then it's he said, she said, as to who's going to be responsible, some things of that nature. So also talk to your insurance agent about whether or not you can have operating costs covered. Maybe it's loss of revenue, or loss of assets that aren't part of the building, such as vehicles. Maybe you have a fleet of vehicles that you need to worry about, or inventory that's outside in the yard in a separate warehouse or something. You want to make sure that all of those things are going to be properly covered. Next is to actually do a review with your MSP, and IG Tech 365 is an MSP, so you would want to reach out to IG Tech or your MSP or your IT person or IT department, and really go through the checklist and say, okay, guys, what do we have on the preparation list? What are we going to get done? When are we going to do these things? And who's going to make it happen for us? And through a couple meetings, go down that checklist and make sure that as the risk rises, because storms start coming in, that certain things are being done at different trigger points. And the things that are slow to do, slow to implement, maybe more expensive, are things that you may want to start earlier in the process. And then you may have, or you definitely will have, last minute things that you want to confirm. Next is to check on your backups, and I see this on a regular basis where people, they tell me, oh, well, we got backups going, and then you go look at the backups. The backups haven't run for 9 months, right? So you've got to look at your backups, make sure that they're running. Don't just look at a time date stamp. Actually try to do something with the file so you can be sure that there is data in the data file. Um, and going through the restoration process is not something that happens immediately. You've got to keep in mind that just because you have a backup doesn't mean that you will have a server to put it on if your building is blown over. If you have that backup in a different data center in a different state, and you've got terabytes worth of information that you've got to deal with, what's the transfer rate going to be, especially when everybody's trying to do similar things. Your speeds may be way slow, your internet connection may be very spotty or even out altogether, and now you've got to figure out how long is it actually going to take to restore that data, and then what are you restoring it to? Then you've got to configure the servers. If you lose a server, it could take weeks to get to buy another server, right? So what are your options there? Talk to your IT professional and come up with a game plan, and then decide how much you're willing to spend to get the risk factor reduced with a disaster plan. Next is, talk about and see if your people can work remotely. We have always been able to work remotely. We were early adopters of the Office 365, and now it's Microsoft 365. Because we live in a hurricane-prone area, it was always important for us to be able to just pick up and walk out. Microsoft 365 these days makes remote work extremely easy and reliable. Uh, you know, it's almost like something that you have to do, right? If you want to be mobile, you want to fly and travel for work, you want to be prepared for disasters, you want to enable people to work from home. Having laptops and Microsoft 365 so you can get an internet connection anywhere is, part of that particular process, in my opinion. Um, One of the things that we did, last year as a result of the hurricanes that came through the Tampa area, and it took out our internet for um, a couple of weeks. It took out the internet at my house, and I work from home, so I was unable to get connected, and then ended up having to use a cell phone, and then obviously the cell phones are very busy. So we actually went and bought a Starlink satellite connection, and now that is part of our disaster kit, and it can be used as a hotspot. So theoretically, if we needed to get together as a group, we can get together and everybody can connect up to the Starlink, and we can service our customers. We can also go on the road with that, obviously, or we can plan to travel out of the area, set up in a hotel or a friend's house, or family's house, and use their internet because Microsoft 365 gives you that mobility, right? You run into access problems and performance problems when you start to store information in your building. I've seen customers storing servers right outside of their bathrooms sitting right on the floor, just waiting for something to flood and get into the server. If your building blows over, your windows blow out, things of that nature, and rain comes in, then anything that you have on site, if it's not backed up off-site, is going to be toast. The other thing that you can do, which we have done as well, is simply copy your information to a hard drive and take it with you, right? Physically carry a copy with you. And you have to time that so it will finish loading to the hard drive about the same time that you need to get out of town. That gives you a very current copy, and you can pick a slice of data that is going to keep you operational, but it may not include all of your historical data, right? And you have to understand how are you going to bring that data back together if you actually do split it, right? So keep that in mind. Next is, the physical protections. It's the building, it's the doors, the windows, the desks, the desktop computers, the monitors, and all of those physical things that you want to take a look at and try to decide. One year before we really had laptops, we just had everybody take their desktops home. Take your computer home. You don't even have to plug it in, but take it home so we know that that computer is going to be protected, or at least we're distributing the risk. Not everybody lives in the same area. Not everybody's house would, blow down at one time. We would have enough working computers in order to be able to get back to work. So um, those are the primary things that you want to be thinking about. You'll come up with more in your business. You know your business better than anybody, and you'll put something together. And if you don't, and you roll the dice, you'll suffer the consequences, I guess. But I'm sure people in Asheville were sitting around thinking, "Oh, it'll never happen to me," and then look what happens. And then sometimes we have, 4, 5, 6 notable hurricanes in the area, and everybody's scrambling to do something. At the same time, you've got employees that are trying to take care of their families. You've got supply problems. You're not able to get inventory. So you may want to think about ordering extra. You want to have a communication plan. How are you going to communicate where and when and who's going to be doing what once communication gets lost and everybody is gone? What are some of the standing instructions that people need to know? Hey, we're going to come back 3 days after the event. In the meantime, you need to be online best you can. We give you those particular resources, so we expect anybody to be taking phone calls to try to help the customers, that type of thing. So if we can help you with your disaster plan in any way, shape, or form, IG Tech 365 is here in Tampa Bay. We service basically West Florida, and we do remote services nationwide. And you can find us online at igtech365.com. Thank you.